Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Todd Adamson. I'm an enterprise account executive here at Consensus. I'll be the moderator for today's session, which is Inspirational Relevance, the guiding principle for demos that sell with Chris White. DEMOFEST is presented by Consensus. Transform how you sell with Consensus, the first product experience platform. Automate demos, drive faster decisions, and accelerate growth. You can learn more at goconsensus.com or click the Watch a Demo button at the top of your screen. We encourage you to participate in today's session, like many of you have already done in the chat. You can find a few ways to engage with us on the right side of your console. The chat function will allow you to connect with us as well as other attendees. You can find some helpful resources in the Docs tab. And lastly, your speaker will answer any questions at the end of the session. So please ask those questions at any time through the Q&A box. If at any time you have technical difficulties, head to the gear icon on the bottom of your screen. This is where you'll see a help document to troubleshoot common issues. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Chris White. Chris is the author of the acclaimed 6 Habits of Highly Effective Sales Engineers, founder and CEO of Tech Sales Advisors, and host of the LinkedIn Live program, Tech Sales Advice. Chris is no stranger to the pre-sales community. He's a regular guest at industry events, and I believe a 6-time presenter at DEMOFEST. He speaks with infectious enthusiasm, shares unique insights, and leaves tangible steps on how to improve. And with that, I'll turn the rest of the time over to you, Chris.
Thanks so much, Todd. Welcome, folks. So good to see so many people that I recognize. I see a lot of familiar names, and I see quite a few folks who are local here to the DC area. I hope you're okay with me being here on the slides. I feel like it's a little bit easier to sort of hear and see the individual speaking. So I'm going to be joining you right here through the slides. Every now and then I'll be looking to my right or looking to my left. I've got a number of things going on here. So I saw that we have a number of people from all over the world. I actually saw someone from Accra, Ghana. My son actually lived there for a couple of years. So whoever that was, I would love to connect with you. And by the way, if we're not connected, I would, of course, love for you to reach out and connect online. I do want to take just a first quick moment and say a big thank you to Consensus. As Todd mentioned a moment ago, this is their 6th year in a row running this event. And this is my 6th opportunity in a row to have the chance to speak. So I do appreciate indeed this opportunity. And I appreciate the fact that you all have decided to take a few minutes and join me for this session. I know you have options. So I appreciate you deciding to spend a little bit of time with me. And I'm going to have to look to my right to see the chat. So I may miss a few chats, but I'll try to keep an eye. Let's jump into this. Today's topic is inspirational relevance. And if any of you have attended any of my sessions before, whether it's here on DEMOFEST or any other session that I've done, you may likely know that I like to begin with polls. So I am once again going to invite you to join me here on this polling platform. I'll wait just a minute to let everyone jump in. You can grab your phone and scan the QR code, or of course, you can also just go to menti.com and use the code 72627656. While we're waiting for people to join, Todd, I want to make sure you can hear me okay. And well, you can't see me right now because the video is hidden, but can you hear me okay? And is all good on the audio video?
Yep, great on both fronts there, Chris.
Perfect. All right. Well, folks, I hope we have some people joining in on the polling platform here. What best describes your role? What best describes your role? Okay, I see we've got quite a few, as I would expect, quite a few pre-sales professionals. We have some pre-sales leaders. We have so far 1 sales leader and 1 enablement leader, and we have some folks chiming in with other. By the way, if you're one of the folks that typed in other, I'll invite you to drop in the chat what your role is. If maybe it's product management, maybe it's product marketing. Okay. So, and we've got about 54 people responding so far. That's a good start. Okay. So dominated by pre-sales and pre-sales leaders, probably not surprisingly. How long have you been in your particular role? How long have you been in your particular role? Less than a year, 1 to 5, 5 to 10. All right. So we have quite a few in the 1 to 5 year range. So, and a few of you even less than a year. So welcome to what I consider to be the best job in tech. We've got a handful of folks that are 15 plus years. So for those of you who've been doing this as long as I have, congrats for the long haul. And look, as I like to say, I believe that for those of us with the right mix of skills and expertise, there is no better job in the profession. All right, next question. What best describes your industry? Just so I sort of get an idea of who's out there. And so you all get an idea of who's out there. All right, we've got some MarTech, some sales tech, FinTech. Wow, we've got a good smattering. If you're in the other category, it looks like there's quite a few in there. Do you, by the way, Shannon DeCarmo, nice to see you. I just saw your note. If you responded other, I'd love to see, drop it in the chat. What is it that ed tech from Sean Campbell? Very good. What other fundraising tech? Excellent, Ben. Very interesting. HCM. Oh, healthcare. I should have included healthcare. That's probably an obvious one. Entertainment tech, ed tech. All right, I might have to just add ed tech. Public sector. Excellent. Okay. By the way, I'm based in the DC area here, so I am very familiar with the public sector space, blockchain. Excellent. Are you familiar with the 6 Habits book and or framework? Are you familiar with the 6 Habits book and or framework? Okay, so a few of you have never heard of it, and quite a few have heard of it, don't know it. That's actually a great insight for me to see. One person, a few people are claiming to have 6 Habits tattoos. I'm not sure I actually believe that, but if you do, I would love to get a photo of that. And certainly a few of you have read it, know it, and live by it. For those of you who have not heard of it, I published a book in 2019 called The 6 Habits of Highly Effective Sales Engineers. For those of you who have heard of it but don't know it, I will apologize in advance. I am not going to cover the 6 habits in this workshop, but I will certainly invite you to look it up on Amazon. You can certainly find it. In fact, maybe one of my friends in the chat will drop a link to access the book if you care to find the book on Amazon. And of course, I'll give you an opportunity to schedule some time with me when we close things out. Be happy to tell you a little bit more about that. Okay, this is where it gets more important and relevant to today's conversation. Are you personally responsible for delivering real-time demos to prospects and clients? Okay, some of you, or very few of you, are saying rarely. Some of you are saying sometimes, and the vast majority are saying yes all the time, which is what I might have expected. Okay, one final question before. Oops, actually, you know what? I take that back. We're not going to get to that question yet. Let's go ahead and dive in to the material. Because most of you are largely responsible for giving demonstrations to prospects and customers, I believe this is going to be highly relevant. Now, what is it that we as sales engineers truly want out of our role, out of our profession? Now, again, if you know anything about me, you know that I'm probably going to answer that question in a moment, but I am going to go back to the poll and I'll invite you all to answer that question. For those of you who are sales engineers, or if you're responsible for delivering demos and presentations to clients and customers, what is it that we truly want out of this job, out of the career? The first response, I suspect, will resonate with a lot of people. Solve problems, technical win, money and happiness, fat commissions. Amen to that. Help the client find a solution, growth and challenges, success to help people money, achievement, a job without I can't see what that says. Let me push that up. Without the stress of being in sales, help people growth, relations, make connections, etc. Coin operated. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Well, here's my perspective on this very question. And my thoughts align very much with a number of the answers that we just saw. What is it that we truly want? I think we want to be respected by colleagues and customers. We want to solve real world problems. A number of you just said that a moment ago. We want to be viewed as trusted partners, trusted advisors. We want to feel proud of our work, proud of the work that we do. I think we all want to believe that we're making an impact. In fact, I believe, and many of you have heard me say this before, I believe we are most fulfilled when serving other people. We want to grow in mastery and expertise. Again, this is another one that I saw on the board when I asked all of you. And I think we want to be reasonably well compensated. And I'm pretty sure that there are some of you out there that want to be unreasonably well compensated. In fact, there might be some of you who are already unreasonably compensated. So what gets in the way, folks? Why don't we achieve what we seek to achieve with the consistency we would like to? Again, I'll invite you back to the polling platform one last time to answer that question. What is it that stands in the way of getting what we want? The things that we just talked about. Myself. Now, for those of you, and you don't see me right now, I'm holding up a chip. Whoever said myself, you can take credit in the chat. I'm honoring you with the first chip of our session. For those of you who have spent any time with me, you know I like to hand out chips for people who share. Myself, people, lack of skills, ourselves, the sales team. Amen to that. And we won't talk too much about our partnership with sales today. We'll talk maybe a little bit about it. But yeah, that's a big challenge. Missing information, product shortcomings, AEs, time and energy, prep work, unorganized process, ego. Love that one. Whoever wrote ego, I'm tossing you a chip. Take credit for that one. Completely agree. Unnecessary process, time. Amen to that. Communication, automation. Interesting. We were not going to talk too much about automation, but that's an interesting perspective. Overthinking prep, shifting priorities. Man, this is great. By the way, folks, I feel like we could just spend our entire time just having these conversations, because I probably like that more than just me sharing. But alas, I do feel like I need to share a few observations. Nonetheless, I've got a poker chip here for those of you that I called out. You've earned yourself a poker chip for gaining or getting my attention. Now, allow me to share, again, just a few of my thoughts, many of which you just shared yourselves. What is it that gets in the way? Lack of information, context, feature dump pressure. We talked about AEs. Raise your hand, and of course, I can't see you there. You can do it on the chat. Raise your hand if you've ever received this phone call from an AE. I don't know, let's just get in there and show them what we usually show them. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Yeah, I'm sure. Well played, Sean Campbell. Love that. Yeah, misalignment with sales. As I like to say, the need for speed, right? By the way, I'm a Top Gun fan, love the movie, but we shouldn't always be or have the need for speed. Over-engineered demos. I think there were a couple of you who mentioned that in the poll. We tend to focus sometimes in the wrong place. We tend to focus too much on ourselves, our features, our functions, our capabilities, and not the customer and what they're trying to achieve. Sometimes just the fear of selling or being too salesy. I know I made that mistake early in my career. Sometimes it's the lack of confidence, particularly when telling stories or experience telling stories. At the end of the day, folks, I'm going to invite you to, and I'm going to stare at the chat, I'll glance at the chat just for a moment. All these challenges, these obstacles that we can put on the board here, are they within our control or beyond our control? What do you think? I'm gonna stare at the chat here while I see some responses. Are they within our, okay, in our control? I think I saw a little bit of both. John Lane, I agree. It's a little bit of both. Many are in our control. Cliff, well said. Winning our control. Giselle, I hope I'm saying that right. Yeah, to be fair, folks, it's a little bit of a trick question. Allow me to suggest that any of the challenges that we can put on a board are either within our control or beyond our control. And I think we have a tendency to focus a little bit too much on those things that are beyond our control and don't accept enough responsibility for those things that are within our control. But here's the reality. All of our growth lives within the sphere of those things that we can control. I'm going to allow you to just pin that thought to the board for a moment. At the end of the day, this all leads to what I consider to be irrelevant and uninspiring demos. But that's not all. What's really at stake here, folks? It's not just wasted time, it's wasted talent. It's not just lost deals, but lost moments. At the end of the day, we didn't sign up to be button clickers or feature or demo robots. We signed, as you just told me a moment ago, we signed up to solve real problems. We want to be trusted, respected, consulted. We want to feel like we are part of the win. I saw a few of you said something about getting the win, but too often we're dragged into demos that feel like we're just going through the motions. We're just checking boxes. And it's frustrating. Not because we don't care, quite the contrary, because we do care. And that's why I believe inspirational relevance matters. Allow me to introduce this idea. It's not just what we show in a demo, it's why we show it. We're talking about demos that just don't inform, they convert because they inspire, because they're relatable. If you've ever spent any time with me, if you've heard some of the material or some of the work that I've done, whenever I start pontificating and trying to put some new words out there, I always do my homework first. And I like to look up definitions. To that end, I literally looked up a few words that I'm building this entire conversation around. The first was inspire. And here's the definition I found. To fill someone with a strong desire, enthusiasm, or creativity, often leading to action or creative endeavors. Inspiration, therefore, is the feeling of being motivated and energized to create or achieve something, often triggered by an external influence or a sudden idea. And relevance, something is relevant if it's appropriate for and connected and important to the matter at hand, AKA applicability and usefulness. That's what we're talking about, folks, is driving desire, helping people feel motivated and energized by our influence and the ideas that we can share. And in order to do so, it needs to be appropriate and connected to the matter at hand. So some of you might be saying, okay, Chris, you piqued my interest. I'll buy into this idea of inspirational relevance. How exactly do you suggest we do this? Great question. Glad you asked. We're going to cover 7 things that I think lead to inspirational relevance. And by the way, I'm going to apologize right now. I see the chat is just flowing rapidly and my eyes are not going there. So Todd, I'm going to invite you, if anybody says anything that is worth repeating or asks a question that I should be zooming in on, I'm going to invite you to just interrupt me and bring that to my attention. Otherwise, folks, I'm going to encourage you to keep the chat going because I love the fact that I see it flowing. Let's talk about the first of the 7. Have you ever watched a demo where, everything looked like it flowed well. It was maybe the quote perfect demo, but for whatever reason, it just It just felt flat. Even though the clicks were smooth, maybe the talking points were tight, something was missing. Allow me to suggest that that thing that was missing might have been you. Here's what I think we all believe. Customers don't buy products, they buy outcomes. They buy value. And by the way, I sat in on the first talk this morning, and I know there was talk of the product experience. So I don't want to downplay the importance of the product experience and giving people an early introduction and experience with the product. But at the end of the day, people buy outcomes and value. Here's what they also buy. They buy conviction. They buy belief. And belief is contagious, but only when it's real. The best demos aren't the ones with the cleanest flow. They're the ones where the passion is palpable. To begin with, I'm going to encourage you, be yourself, not a script. In fact, I saw in the chat earlier, someone said trying to do somebody else's script or do somebody else's demo. Folks, I'm going to tell you a personal story where this is concerned. I sat through Rue Dickinson's show or presentation earlier. I don't know if Rue is with us now or not. He's probably at his booth. I have a confession to make. I'm a bit of a Rue Dickinson fanboy. I love his approach. I love his sort of laid back, casual nature. I love the whiteboard or the neon, writing that he does. In fact, some of you might be thinking to yourself, well, Chris, it's odd for you to say. I mean, isn't he a competitor of yours? Actually, I don't think of Rue as a competitor in the least. As far as I'm concerned, he is an industry colleague. And this industry, there is more than enough room in this industry for both of us. In fact, there's more than enough room in this industry for about 10 or 20 of us. Why do I mention Rue? I watch his presentations and I think, gosh, I so wish I had like his just sort of natural aura. And he's just so relaxed and comfortable. And I love the whiteboard, the neon whiteboard thing that he does. But folks, if you had arrived at this talk and I was standing there with a neon whiteboard and I was trying to be Rue, how inauthentic would that feel? If you've heard me speak before, you pretty much know what you're gonna get. I show up and I'm waving my hands and I'm loud and I've got all, sort of things all preset and ready to go. That's the authentic me. I'm going to encourage you to consider what's the authentic you and make sure that you are delivering the authentic you. Second, believe in what you sell. If we don't believe, and I'm going to take it a step further, believe in the problems that you solve. People sense if you believe whether or not or what it is that you're talking about. We can't fake this stuff. Either we believe in the solutions that we deliver, we believe in helping the people and serving the people that we serve, or not. At the end of the day, passion builds enthusiasm. You want to inspire people? Speak with passion, speak with enthusiasm, believe in what it is that you're selling and the problems your solution can solve, and that will come through. In fact, your demo doesn't have to be perfect if they sense that passion and enthusiasm. That's number one. Number two, deliver a clear and meaningful message. Look, we just talked about passion, and passion gets their attention, may get people excited, but clarity earns their trust. You've been there. I've been there. We're knee deep, or we're eyeball deep in a technical presentation or demonstration. Maybe your audience is following along, they're nodding, but you sort of gets the sense that maybe they're not following. Is it because the material's not relevant? Is it because the message got muddy? Here's the truth. And again, if you've heard me speak before, you've heard me say this before. Here's what I believe to be the truth. Complexity kills deals, period. A confused mind always says no. I might like you. I might feel your passion. I might feel your enthusiasm, but you lost me 15 or 20 minutes ago. And I'm just confused. How do we do this then? And again, some of you have probably heard me talk about this before. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the term, the MVP, the minimum viable product. I'm going to encourage you to leverage the MVD, the minimum viable demo. By the way, I appreciate the comment. I just saw a comment there. Thank you for that comment. What do I mean by the minimum viable demo? We know what's important to us. The question is what's important to them? What is the story they need to hear? What they need to understand? And then when you're assembling your demo, when you're putting together your demo, don't think in terms of what are all the things that I can show? Just the opposite. What is the most concise and direct path or story or flow that I can deliver that delivers that message? In fact, Rue did an exercise. If you sat through his session, he did an exercise. I think he calls it like 60-35 or something, where he says, explain something in 60 seconds and then cut it in half, explain it in 30, and then cut it in half and explain it in 5. I do something similar with some of the folks that I work with. I say, if you're preparing for a demo, list the top, if you had an hour, what are the top 10 things that you would deliver in that hour? Now cut it in half. You've got 30 minutes. What are the top 5 things you would deliver? Now cut that in half. You've got 15 minutes. What are the top 3 things you would deliver? Now cut that in half one more time or go smaller. You've got 5 minutes. What's the one thing you'd show? I have people ask me all the time, Chris, how do I know when my demo is ready? Because when I'm preparing for demo, I always feel like there's more things that I can add to the message. My response is, you've got the equation wrong. The demo isn't ready when there's nothing else you can add. The demo is ready when there's nothing else you can remove without losing the core essence of the message. Think less, not more. Next, remember the so what principle. What's the so what principle? For everything you say, for every point, for every element in your demo, simply ask yourself, so what? If there's not a good reason, if you don't have a good answer for the so what, why they should care, why it's important for them, it doesn't belong. Remove it. And if you do, then make sure you're leading with the so what. And at the end of the day, it is our job to translate capability into consequence. What is the key point? Not how it works, but why it's significant for them and what the consequence, the result will be for them. At the end of the day, when our message is both meaningful and clear, we don't just win minds, folks. We move hearts. We inspire, which is precisely what we're talking about. And that's what move deals forward. Let's talk about number 3, emotionally engaging storytelling. Now, again, we can have the perfect flow, show all the right features, show the right message, deliver what we believe is the right message. But here's another fundamental truth, folks. If the buyer doesn't feel anything, they likely won't do anything. And that's where the story comes in. Because stories don't just explain, they connect. They connect your audience with what is possible with your solution. It helps us turn, quote, data into drama, features into impact. They won't remember the details, the features, the specifications of your product. They will remember stories about people who have faced similar challenges to them. At the end of the day, stories are the bridge between indifference and action. So, how do we do this? I'll share a few tips, a few ideas on how I believe we can do this. First, I'm going to introduce you a term that I like to call word pictures. What exactly are word pictures? Well, it's a fancy term for analogies. I'm going to give you a perfect example. I was working with a client recently, and they sell to the financial world. They sell to asset managers and portfolio managers, and their solution helps them get a greater insight into organizations and things that will help them, frankly, make better portfolio decisions. And their unique differentiator is that they give greater insight and greater clarity to that information than their competitors. But they were struggling to communicate that point. They were struggling to get people to, or their prospects to see and understand the difference. And so we were doing an exercise like this. And I said, well, how can we give an analogy, a word picture that might help them understand? And one of the gentlemen came up with this brilliant idea. He said, Chris, he said, I remember, gosh, it was decades ago. I remember, and I'm a huge Boston Celtics fan. He said, I remember the first time that I watched a Boston Celtics game on HD TV. I could literally see the sweat coming down his face. And the difference from that or between what we had become, just used to because we grew up with it, the old TVs and this new HD, it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. That's the experience you get when you use our solution to look for the data that you're looking for. You see things with clarity that you've never seen before. That's a word picture. Now, allow me to draw your attention to three very important elements there. First, it has to be an easily relatable analogy. It has to be something that most people can relate to and experience, such as HDTV. The second is we have to give enough detail so that people can literally picture it in their minds. Like I mentioned, the sweat dripping down. But the most important thing is it has to trigger an emotion. Who of us don't remember that moment when we first, particularly if you're an old, if you're in your 50s like me, I literally remember the first moment that I saw HD or in my case, a sporting event in high def. It was incredible. And what are we talking about? Rap, truth, and emotion. People might hear you, they understand you, it makes logical sense, but until I can emotionally relate and emotionally connect to what it is you're saying, the chances that I'll be inspired, very small. But the moment you can relate it to something and I know what that feels like, now I can appreciate your solution far more. And then finally, show transformation, not tools. Folks, I can't state this strongly enough. If you've got 30 minutes to present your solution and you're not establishing this is where you are, or this is most of the organizations or the individuals that use our solution are somewhere here and they're trying to get here. And this is how we can get them. This is how we have taken them there. We are missing an opportunity. Again, some of you have probably heard me say another one of my favorite little analogies. By the way, another word picture. Think like an Uber driver, not a tour guide. Let's take those in reverse order. What's the tour guide's job? To take his or her audience on a predetermined journey of their choosing and point out everything along the way. The Uber driver, on the other hand, they know where you are, they know where you want to go, and it's their job to get you there as concisely and directly as possible. It's a great way to think of our role. Number 4, I'm going to encourage you to embrace an idea that I call other-centered selling. What is other-centered selling? Allow me to introduce it in this manner. Your demo doesn't matter if it doesn't address their world. We have to meet them where they are. It's not about us. It's not about our features. It's not about our functions. It's about them. I'm going to encourage you to remember what I like to call the golden rule of selling software. Many of you may be familiar with my golden rule of selling software. What's my golden rule of selling software? He or she who buys a shovel doesn't want a shovel. They want a hole. But they don't just want a hole. They want a fence or a tree. But they don't just want a fence or a tree. They want privacy or shade or fruit or flowers. Yet we have a tendency to show up with a shiny shovel. And yes, I have one here in the office. We want to talk about the blade and the handle and how wonderfully built it is. But that is not what they care about. In spite of the fact that we were talking about product experience this morning, at the end of the day, if we want to align, if we want to achieve inspirational relevance, we need to prioritize the customer and deprioritize ourselves and our agenda. Why? Relevance opens doors, folks. Here's an unfortunate truth. No one likes to feel as though they're being sold to. So the moment we show up just trying to push our shovels and push our tools is the moment they feel as though they're being sold to and will shut down. So how do we do this? I'm going to give you 3 ideas as I've done in each of the other items. Number 1, make them the priority. Well, some of you may be thinking, well, Chris, how exactly do we make them the priority? Folks, this is a decision. I believe we have the decision before the meeting to ask ourselves and check ourselves. Is this about me? Am I just trying to push my agenda? Or am I completely and totally tuned in to them? Make the conscious decision. Remind yourself, this is about them, not us. Them, not me, first. Now, some of you may have heard me share this reference before. I'll do so very quickly. Sometimes, in fact, I think it might have even been at last year's DEMOFEST. I had a picture of a compass, and I think I might have invited someone online just to complete this sentence. The compass works because it always blank. And of course, the answer is it always points north. We all have a compass lodged right here in our psyche. And where does our compass point? To self. And I'm not sure if, yes, I'm looking at some of the chat. So why, and by the way, some of you may be thinking, well, Chris, I mean, are you suggesting we're selfish? No, I'm not suggesting you're selfish. What I am suggesting is that we're all human. I bet I can prove it, that our compass naturally points to self. When I take a picture, and I always take a picture of the group that I'm working with when we're doing a workshop, then I show them the picture, and I simply ask them, whose picture did you look for first? If I were to take a picture of this wonderful group here, I can almost guarantee that we'd all look for our own pictures first. We naturally default to self, folks. It's part of the human experience. Make a conscious decision to reset that compass and seek to demonstrate that you understand them. I will go as far as to say that the more we can demonstrate our understanding of them, their situation, and what they're trying to do, as much as, if not more than, demonstrating the product, that gives us that much more of a chance, not only to win and to move the ball forward, but to feel that much better about our roles and ourselves. Why do I think this is so important? 2 reasons. Number 1, everyone wants to feel as though they are uniquely understood and valued. In fact, they want to feel uniquely heard, understood, and valued. Again, I bet I can prove it to you. Have you ever heard a prospect or customer say, you know, our situation is a little bit different? Our situation is a little bit. Have you ever not heard a client or a prospect or a customer say, our situation is a little bit different? Everyone wants to feel as though they are uniquely understood. And again, I believe that people purchase not just software. People make purchases from those individuals whom they feel understand them the best. And lastly, and this is just a very simple technique, be willing to shift gears. Some of you might be thinking to yourself, Chris, this is all fine and good if I get the opportunity to do some discovery before the meeting, or the account executive is providing me a great deal of information, but I just don't have that luxury. I'm going into meetings without doing discovery. I'm going into meetings blind. I get that. I've done that too. So we have to prepare as best as we can. But when you get in to the meeting, when you begin to learn or understand that, okay, it's a different situation, they're interested in different things than we anticipated, don't stick to the agenda just because you planned it. Be willing to abandon your agenda and shift gears and go in a direction that's more meaningful to them. Folks, we're almost 45 minutes in. We are going to land this plane on time. We've got just a couple more ideas to share, and then I'm going to have one final poll. Really appreciate all you hanging in here with me. Let's talk about number 5, energy and presence. What's the difference between a demo that merely lands and one that lives on in the buyer's memory? The truth is that even the most brilliant message, the most relevant story may fall flat if the delivery doesn't bring it to life. Buyers don't just hear your words, folks. They feel your presence. I hope you feel my presence here today. Now, I'm one of these guys that talks with his hands, and I tend to have a loud voice. But what are we really talking about here? Tone, pacing, energy. It all tells a story, whether we mean for it to or not. Show up like it matters. What do I mean by show up like it matters? And folks, this is an opinion, just an opinion. I think the way we present ourselves, the clothes that we wear, the microphone that we have, the lighting that we have, the video, we can present in such a manner and present ourselves in such a manner like we actually care. And what matters most? Not closing the deal. Their success. We are here to help you succeed. We are here to help you achieve what you're trying to achieve. I want you to imagine going to a doctor. If the doctor were to walk in with grungy looking clothes, what does that communicate to you? I think it matters. Now look, presence isn't about necessarily being loud and theatrical. I'm going to encourage you to be fully present in the moment. Give your audience, give the meeting your full attention. Be fully tuned in. By the way, what's one of the ways in which they'll feel that presence? When you pick up subtleties. I was giving a talk probably a month or two ago. And in fact, I asked a gentleman a question and I expected him to go in a very specific direction, and he went in a completely different direction. And I was sort of standing there a little bit flat-footed at first, but I detected some energy and some emotion in what it was that he said. And so I said, I just asked him about it. I said, I feel like I've struck a bit of a chord with that question unexpectedly. And he said, well, actually you did. And he explained why. And it completely changed the dynamic of the conversation. In that moment, what did they witness? That I was completely and totally fully present in the moment and tuned into them. By the way, folks, I'll give you another analogy, another word picture. I believe whenever it is that we speak with an audience, there's two magnetic forces that are pulling against us. I want you to imagine you walk into a room, there's one magnetic force on the wall in front of you, and that's your audience. There's a magnetic force on the wall behind you. That's your material, your agenda, your planned approach. And there's a constant tugging back and forth between these two magnetic forces. If we allow the audience to pull us too far to them, we forget what we're there to talk about. We lose our place. But if we allow our material to draw us too far back away from the audience, we lose touch with the audience. I believe any effective conversation, presentation is a balancing of these two magnetic forces. Be fully present. And at the end of the day, and we've talked about this a little bit already, radiate belief and purpose. You are there for a very specific purpose, to help them solve a problem, or maybe it's to identify and help them identify the problems and how you can potentially solve for them. And we want to radiate that belief. Incidentally, and I'll draw attention to this just for a brief moment. Do you notice how I pause from time to time for influence or for effect? Sometimes I'm raising my voice and I'm waving my hands, and other times I quiet myself. It's these sorts of changes that keep people engaged and deliver that energy and display that energy. At the end of the day, the way in which we deliver the story is actually part of the story. Number 6, transformational arc. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, Chris, this sounds a little bit like storytelling. We've already talked about storytelling, and we talked about the transformation. We talked about the Uber driver. And without a doubt, storytelling is for sure part of this, or this is part of storytelling. But allow me to suggest that storytelling is about really engaging the audience emotionally through relatable, human-centered examples. I think the transformational arc is more about structuring the entire experience. It's the way the demo or the narrative unfolds. It's the shape of the story, if I can use that term, not just the content. I'll encourage you to think of storytelling as the brushstroke, and the arc is the canvas. Here's the truth. The human brain struggles with random. It does. We need to organize. If we have various thoughts coming at us, various ideas, if we don't have a way to organize those thoughts in a meaningful way, we struggle to process what it is we're hearing. By the way, I know some of you are familiar with the 6 habits. Some of you are not. I'll put this here so you can see it. That's why I came up with the 6 habits framework, because it organized what I had to say in a meaningful framework. And it literally takes the reader or the people that go through the program on a journey. And that's really what we're trying to do. The best demos take their audience on a journey. So how do we do this? Begin with the challenge or the dilemma. I will invite you to think back to the 2 first slides that I had. The very first slide invited you to consider what is it that we most want from our profession, from our job, from our role. And then I asked, what is it that stands in our way? What are the challenges? In doing so, what am I inviting you to do? To consider the challenge, the dilemma, and then introduce the breakthrough. I hope that the idea of inspirational relevance was that breakthrough idea, that light bulb idea, and then deliver the resolution and what's possible. And I hope what you've seen over the past 50 minutes or so is an example of walking through the resolution, what's possible, and how we get there. At the end of the day, when the message follows an arc, it stops becoming just a presentation, and it's a story that the buyer or your audience can step into. I hope that you've had the opportunity to step into this story. And finally, it brings me to what should be the last thing we do. It's the last concept that I'll share. And I believe one of the most overlooked, particularly necessary to deliver inspirational relevance, a powerful close. The truth is we spend most of our time prepping intros, building out the middle. we forget how much the ending matters. And why is this important? The last thing we say may very well be the only thing they remember. And here's one of the mistakes that we make. We tend to make it just a recap, not a call to action. It should be more of a calling, an inspiration, a vision, a spark, a challenge. Finish your demos with purpose. Turn that moment into momentum. Because when we end with purpose, it doesn't just conclude, folks. The idea is that we want it to carry forward. We want our audience to be thinking, the demo's over. I want more. Let's keep this going. I hope some of you are thinking that to yourself, like, come on, Chris, there's got to be more here. This is too much fun. At the end of the day, we want to inspire the desire to move forward. So folks, I've got about 8 minutes left. I'm going to just revisit what we started with. We talked about what it is that we truly want as sales engineers, or any of us in a role where we're presenting to customers. We want to be respected, solve real world problems, be viewed as a trusted partner. We want to feel proud of our work, make an impact, grow, and make a little money. And at the end of the day, we did not sign up to be button clickers or demo robots. We signed up to do these things. But too many times, I feel like we get dragged in just to show the standard demo. And we talked a little bit about what gets in the way. Do you remember? I said, is it within our control or beyond our control? Allow me to suggest that the things that we've been talking about, I believe, are within our control. If we lead with authenticity and passion, craft a clear and meaningful message, tell emotionally engaging stories that connect, we are other-centered in our approach, we show up with energy and presence, we follow a transformational arc, and we deliver a powerful close, I believe that we have the opportunity to achieve what we ultimately want to achieve. And not sound just like product experts, but start becoming remembered as the reason they said yes. Folks, allow me to suggest this is not just a principle. It's a path. It's a path to take us back to the place that we got into this role to begin with. Now, allow me to suggest that you're not going to remember all 7 of these things. I'll invite you to choose one to focus on coming out of this meeting. I had a poll queued up to see what you might pick, but I'll invite you to drop it in the chat. Which of the 7 would you focus on coming out of this conversation? That being said, the next time you sit down to build a demo, I'll invite you, don't ask yourself, what do I need to show? Ask instead, what story do they need to hear? What do they need to feel? How can I make it relevant? And finally, how can you deliver moments that matter? Because that's what we all strive to do. Folks, thank you so much for being here. If you stuck around to the end, I so appreciate you joining this session. If you would like to book a meeting with me, I welcome you to scan the QR code to get access to my meeting booker. And if you want to learn more about tech sales mastery and the work we do, of course, I welcome you to scan the QR code as well. Todd, I will turn it back to you. I'm more than happy to take any questions, but I know we're just about out of time.
Yeah, maybe real quick, we have one question here in the Q&A. Let me just, if you want to just stop sharing, I think I can share that question.
All right.
So Andy Spencer asked, how do you distill passion in your consensus videos? We talked a lot about it, the live interaction, that's a little bit different. It's asynchronous. So what would your recommendation be there?
So first of all, Andy, thank you for the question, and I'll toss you a chip for asking. There you go. I think we almost have to trick ourselves when we're doing a consensus video. What I tell people is actually record the video on something like Zoom so you're actually talking to somebody else, because I think it's really difficult for us to bring the passion and bring the energy if we're not in front of other people. If we're just staring at a camera, or even worse, if we're just staring at ourselves, I think it's really hard to bring that energy. So I would encourage you, do literally record what you're recording, but with somebody else on, if you can do so. And then the other thing I think we have to do is I think we just have to amplify it a little bit. I think if they see our face, not unlike I use the cameo in my slides so you could see me. I think if they see your face and see your facial expression, I think that elevates the passion. And then I think we just have to elevate the energy with which we speak. So, Andy, I hope that helps. It's an important question, and it takes practice. Anything else, Todd?
I think that's it for today. Just to wrap up really quickly here, I wanted to thank you, Chris, for your presentation here. Your sixth annual presentation. It was one of the best I've seen. So thank you for that. Just wanted to remind everyone to stop by our virtual expo hall to visit our partners who've gone above and beyond to make sure that this event is successful. And then we have our raffle giveaway. Information on how to enter, as well as the leaderboard, is found pinned at the top of the public chat, as well as in the docs tab. And then lastly, we have DEMOFEST X Live will be coming to New York City on May 15th. We'd love to see you all there. And then we'll also be in London on October 8th. These are fantastic live sessions that you can interact with folks in a live format. So make sure to check those out. But with that, we'll end this session, and you'll be automatically pushed to the next session in your track here. You can switch tracks if you'd like, but we thank you for your time today and for your engagement.